What's up, guys, and welcome back to INTHESHOPTV. Guys, in the last episode, we installed a gas tank from a 64 to 68 Mustang in the back of our truck. The frame is all nice and freshly painted, and we got a custom battery box put in. We want to relocate the battery to the rear to give some additional traction, and I kind of want to keep a clean firewall under the hood. So that means right now I want to turn my attention to the rear end and start getting that put back into the truck. So it's been resting on this same dolly ever since I finished it, and I just kind of slid it under there and got it into position. To anyone that's new here and that haven't been following along, that's the rear end out of a 96 Ford Explorer. You can use 96 to 01. They're really good budget options, about 200 bucks. And I have a couple videos about rebuilding it and shortening it and what we did to get it to how it looks now. So I'm gonna make a short little playlist out of that and compile those videos if anyone wants to check out the Ford 8.8 video series. I'll put a link to it in the comments below. Anyway, these are the link bars for the 4Link, and what we got to do is get them all painted up and cleaned. They've just been kind of getting some rust accumulating on the outside of them. They're not painted, they're just raw steel sitting here. So I think we're going to paint them up black to match everything that we have on the rear end and the frame. We're going to go ahead and use the same paint that we've been using, which is this Rust-Oleum appliance epoxy enamel. We use it on the frame. We use it on the frame that we built for our fuel tank. I've been real happy with it. It flows out good. It's a super hard finish, super easy to apply, and I just like the overall look of it. So the plan is to use a Scotch-Brite pad and kind of scuff these down and get some tooth on it, get them ready for paint. Wipe them down with some mineral spirits and get them all cleaned up so there's no grease or residual fingerprints or anything on there. And I think I'm going to keep the end links. These are forged end links, so I think I'm going to keep them this silver color. So I'll just clean those up too with the Scotch-Brite and then hit them with a little bit of clear coat. All right, so to paint these things, I'm kind of going to build like a makeshift paint rack of sorts, or a little paint tree. I got a ton of scrap wood in this corner, so I think I'm going to get like a 2x4 and find a little piece of plywood, screw it to it, put some screws in it, and I can just kind of suspend my link bars from the screws. Well, the shit ain't exactly the tree at Rockefeller Center, but you guys get the idea. All right, so I got some 320 grit. I'm just gonna go ahead and just give these a light sand and get some of the oxidation and rust off and get them ready for paint, give them a little bit of tooth. It's the next day, and again, this appliance epoxy lays down super smooth and just looks beautiful. Really happy with this stuff. So the panhard bar arm has a fixed end link on it, so obviously I have to paint it with the arm itself, but I got to take these bushings out of here, or at least I want to take the bushings out of here. This doesn't have a grease arc on it, so I want to be able to grease all inside of this casing and everything and get it greased properly. So I'll show you guys a quick trick I have for taking these bushings out. I use my trusty old cheap Harbor Freight ball joint press. It's been used and abused beyond belief, and it's really hard to get out of here with the gloves on. Anyway, works great for taking out end links. Let me show you what I mean. So the ball joint press works good because you have this open center on the C-clamp here. I'll put the end link right in there, and I'll get a small socket that's just a hair smaller than the rubber part of the bushing, or the polyurethane, part of the bushing, but will fully catch the inner sleeve and be able to push it through. You get your impact and just these polyurethane end bushings just pull right out. There you have all the components. And you know, I don't know if there's a faster way of doing this than this. I have not found it if there is, but I think you know, it takes more time just setting this up than it does to actually push out the sleeves and the bushing. I mean, this is like a 30-second job altogether. So Harbor Freight ball joint press for the win. Whenever you got to remove end link bushings, that's the way to do it. So I'm sitting down here at my desk, and I've got a bunch of these end links here. What I'm doing is just taping off the ends of the bushings. These have grease zerks on them, so I'm not going to bother taking the bushings out. Just to put them back in, I can grease them right through the grease zerk. So I'm just going to take these bushing ends off. I'm going to give these a little bit of a light sanding and wipe them down. I'm going to hit them with just a really mist light coat of some clear, just to maintain that silver color. All right, so we got them all taped up. I'm going to throw a quick sand on them and a quick coat of clear, and I'll be right back. All right, so these are all dry, peeled off the tape, and I separate them by right and left-hand thread. There's only one odd man out, and that's for the panhard bar. It doesn't matter which threading it is, as long as it fits into the bar. I'm gonna go grab the link bars and start assembling them now. So to do that, I'm gonna take just a dab, a tiny, tiny little dab of our anti-seize lubricant. This stuff goes a long way. I mean, a really long way. All right, so these are all assembled, and I'm really glad that I kept the rod end silver because I like the contrast a lot between the two. So I'm getting my link bars in place here, and I'm just taking some grease, getting my bolts lubed up. I'm using what's called super lube. It is a synthetic grease. I think it's silicone based, but it's specifically meant for polyurethane bushings. I know regular petroleum based grease can tend to eat away at polyurethane bushings after a while. So I like to use this stuff. All right, so we've got this side all bolted up. Then go hit up the other side. All right, that side's bolted up. Got these bars bolted up. Everything's looking good. There's two ways I can get this rear end lifted up into position. I can A, lift up the frame and drop it down onto the axle and bolt everything up, or B, that furniture dolly is a lifesaver. Just stuck the jack under there, cranked up on it. I'm getting it lifted up right in position. So we are right in position where our lower shock mount goes in. If you guys remember back to a previous video, I had to modify these shock brackets because they wouldn't clear the wheels, or they wouldn't clear the wheels to the point where I felt comfortable anyway. So I moved them in about 3/8 of an inch, but now I've got to create a spacer that goes right here in between these. That's going to be 5/16 of an inch. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those made. So I've got some leftover DOM tubing from the panhard bar that I trimmed off. I'm gonna go ahead and cut these into 5/16 inch spacers. I need 2 of them. All right, so our rear is set up, our 4-link is set up, everything's ready to go. The other day I ordered the tires for the rear, they came in. So I went down to Discount Tire today, picked them up, they mounted them for me. Got a nice rear tires ready to go on, so let's get those on and see what we look like. All right, here we go. All right, check. All right, so we are all mounted up, looking good. What I had to do real quick was readjust that panhard bar, because when I took everything off, I noticed I was off center to the driver's side by about 3 millimeters. So I just went to the other side after I readjusted that and measured it, and they're both equal now, equal distance from the frame. So we're nice and centered up. I did not adjust my link bars yet to the panhard bar is sitting a little bit low, as you noticed, but I'll do that off camera. I just got to get that pinion angle up to the ground. It's supposed to be parallel to the ground, but the reason for that is pretty close. Empty frame, so everything gets hung on here. There's no battery back here. There's no weight, and we'll have the coilovers, of course, that we can adjust as we need. We got the 4-link. It was a kit, and of course, so if you guys kind of serves as a 4-link to the truck in its original form and original stance and the original ride height. Drops it just a tiny bit. So we quickly learned that that wasn't going to work out for us. We had to make a bunch of modifications, put in a new cross member. That was giving me some concern. That will drop them down. One of them is going to be bring them up higher, because they're the back there to close that all in and make sure we have that as a bit of rigidity by the gas tank. We've got 2 more projects going on in the back. You definitely want to tune in for these next videos. Guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you on the next video.